Lieutenant Junho stared at his screen. His coffee had gone cold 3 hours ago. The numbers on the display made no sense. He ran the scan again. Then again, the result was the same every time. Something was coming. He picked up his communicator with shaking hands. "Sir, you need to see this." Admiral Taiho arrived at the monitoring station within 20 minutes. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had seen many things in his 62 years. He had buried his wife and daughter after the Mars colony disaster. He had fought in 3 wars. Nothing surprised him anymore until now. "How many?" he asked quietly. Jinho swallowed hard. 9,500 ships, sir. They came out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of our solar system. They are heading toward Earth. Taiho said nothing. He just watched the red dots on the screen. So many red dots. They looked like a disease spreading across the map. "Have they made contact?" "Yes, sir. One message. I will play it for you." The room filled with a cold, mechanical voice. It spoke in perfect English, which meant they had been watching humanity for some time. "Learning, studying, people of Earth, we are the Velen Empire. We rule 200 star systems. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately. Resistance is extinction," the message ended. Silence filled the room. JUNHO waited for the Admiral to speak. The young lieutenant was terrified. His hands would not stop shaking. Earth had only 340 ships. How could they possibly fight 9,500? Taiho turned away from the screen. There was no fear in his eyes. Instead, there was something else. Something that almost looked like a smile. "They have never met humans before," he said softly. The news spread across the planet within hours. People panicked. Cities fell into chaos. Some ran to churches. Others ran to bunkers. Many simply held their families and waited to die. The United Council called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every nation gathered in a massive room beneath the mountains of Switzerland. They shouted at each other. They blamed each other. Some cried. Some demanded immediate surrender. Admiral Taiho stood at the front of the room and waited. He did not shout. He did not cry. He simply waited until the noise died down. "Are you all finished?" he asked. The room went quiet. "Good. Now listen carefully. I am going to tell you something that most of you do not know. For the past 100 years, every government on this planet has been working together on a secret project. We always knew this day might come. We always knew that the universe might hold something dangerous. So we prepared." A woman from the European delegation stood up. "Prepared? We have 300 ships. They have 9,000. Taiho nodded. "Yes, our fleet is small. That is true. But our fleet is not our weapon." He pressed a button on his control panel. The main screen changed. It showed images of factories hidden deep underground. Millions of small machines being built in secret. Satellites being launched and then going dark. Weapons being placed on every moon and asteroid in the solar system. For 100 years, we have been filling our solar system with death. We have drones hidden in the rings of Saturn. We have nuclear weapons buried on every rock between here and Neptune. We have turned our entire neighborhood into a trap. The room was silent now. Every leader stared at the screen. "Our 300 ships are not meant to win this war," Taiho continued. "They are meant to survive it. To clean up whatever is left after our traps do their work." The woman spoke again. Her voice was smaller now. "Will it be enough?" Taiho looked at her. "I do not know, but I know this. They expect us to surrender. They have conquered many worlds before. Those worlds gave up. They saw a superior force and they knelt." He paused. "We are not going to kneel." Far away at the edge of the solar system, High Commander Orim stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 eyes. He had led the Velen fleet for 30 years. He had conquered 14 worlds. None of them had fought back. Not really. A few ships here and there. Some protests. Nothing serious. This would be the same. Just another primitive species learning its place in the universe. How long until we reach the third planet? He asked. 72 hours, Commander. Orym nodded. Good. Prepare the ground forces. I want this finished quickly. We have other systems to conquer. He looked at the small blue dot on his screen. Such a tiny world. Such a young species. They had only discovered space travel a few centuries ago. They were still fighting among themselves. This would be easy. Back on Earth, Captain Hannah stood on the bridge of her destroyer, the Indomitable. She was only 34 years old, but she had already earned a reputation for being unpredictable. Other captains followed the rules. Hannah broke them. She read the message from Admiral Taiho on her screen. Her orders were simple. Take her squadron to Jupiter. Hide in the gravity well. Wait for the signal. Her first officer, a young man named Kiwoo, looked nervous. Captain, are we really going to fight them? There are so many. Hannah turned to face him. She was not smiling. Let me tell you something my grandmother told me. She survived the war in Korea when she was a little girl. She watched her city burn. She ate rats to stay alive. And do you know what she learned? Kiwoo shook his head. She learned that numbers do not matter. What matters is how much you are willing to lose. Those aliens out there, they want our planet. They want our resources. But they do not want to die for it. We do. She turned back to the window and looked at the stars. They made a mistake coming here, and we are going to make them regret it. In homes across the world, people watched the news. They saw the images of the approaching fleet. They heard the alien message demanding surrender. Many were afraid, but something strange was happening. Instead of giving up, people were getting angry. Factories that had been closed for years started running again. Young people lined up at military recruitment centers. Old soldiers took their uniforms out of storage. 100 years ago, humanity had been divided. They had fought each other over land, over religion, over money, but now, for the first time in history, every human on Earth was looking at the same enemy, and they were ready to fight. Admiral Taiho stood alone in his office that night. He looked at a photograph on his desk. His wife, his daughter, both gone. I could not save you, he whispered. But I will save them. I will save all of them. He turned off the light and went to prepare for war. The Velen fleet moved through space like a river of metal. 9,500 ships traveling in perfect formation. They had crossed countless star systems. They had conquered countless worlds. This was routine. High Commander Orym sat in his command chair and reviewed the data on Earth. A young species, barely spacefaring. Their technology was primitive. Their military was tiny. This would take 3 days at most. His second officer approached. Commander, we are approaching the ringed planet. The sixth one from their sun. Good. Maintain course. There is something strange, sir. Our sensors are picking up unusual readings from the rings. Orym waved his hand. Ice and rocks. Nothing more. Continue. The fleet entered the space around Saturn. The giant planet hung in the darkness, its famous ring stretching out like a frozen highway. Beautiful. Peaceful. Then the rings came alive. The first ship exploded before anyone understood what was happening. Then the second. Then 10 more. Small objects were shooting out of the ice at incredible speed. Thousands of them. Millions of them. What is this? Orym shouted, standing from his chair. Drones, Commander. Autonomous weapons. They were hidden in the ice. The drones were small and simple. They had no shields. No advanced weapons. They just flew straight at the Velen ships and exploded on impact. They were suicide machines. Destroy them, Orym ordered. His fleet opened fire. Their weapons were far superior. They killed the drones by the thousands. But there were always more. The drones did not try to dodge. They did not try to survive. They just kept coming, wave after wave, crashing into ships and tearing them apart in 30 minutes. The Velen lost 200 ships. Orym could not believe it. No species had ever done this. No species wasted resources on weapons that destroyed themselves. It made no sense. Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the enemy planet. Show me. A human face appeared on the screen. An old man with gray hair. Admiral Taiho.
Welcome to our solar system, Taiho said.
I hope you enjoy your stay. It will be short. The transmission ended. Orem stared at the blank screen. For the first time in his long career, he felt something cold in his stomach. Not fear, not yet. But something close. Continue forward, he ordered. Increase shields. Kill anything that moves. The fleet pushed through the drone field. They lost more ships, but they kept moving. The drones eventually ran out. When the Velen counted their dead, they had lost 400 ships in total. 400 ships. Lost to mindless machines hidden in ice, and they had not even reached the enemy yet. Captain Hannah watched from her hiding spot near Jupiter. Her squadron of 12 ships floated in the planet's gravity well, invisible to enemy sensors. She had seen the drone attack on her screen. She had watched the Velen lose hundreds of ships. It was not enough. Captain, Lieutenant Kiwu said, Admiral Taiho is giving us the signal. We are cleared to engage. Hannah smiled. Finally. All ships, follow my lead. We are going to use Jupiter's gravity to swing around behind them. They will never see us coming. Her squadron accelerated into the planet's pole. Jupiter's massive gravity grabbed them and flung them around like stones from a sling. They shot out the other side at incredible speed. Heading straight for the rear of the Velen fleet, the Velen did not expect an attack from behind. How could they? Earth's fleet was supposed to be at Earth. Who would be crazy enough to hide near a gas giant and use its gravity as a weapon? Humans would. Hannah's squadron hit the Velen rear guard like a hammer. They destroyed 30 ships in the first attack, then disappeared before the enemy could respond. They swung around and attacked again. And again, they are like insects. A Velen captain screamed over the communication channel. They will not stop. Orem ordered ships to chase them. But Hannah knew this space better than they did. She led the Velen ships through asteroid fields where they crashed into rocks. She led them into the gravity wells of moons where they lost control. She played with them like a cat plays with mice. Meanwhile, on a secret base on one of Jupiter's moons, Dr. Minji watched the battle with satisfaction. She was a small woman with glasses and messy hair. She had spent 20 years building weapons. Now she would see if they worked. Activate Phase 2, she said calmly. Across the asteroid belt, thousands of satellites woke up. They had been sleeping for decades, floating among the rocks, looking like space junk. Inside each satellite was a nuclear bomb connected to an XOR laser. The satellites found their targets. They fired. Beams of pure destruction shot across space. Each satellite could only fire once before it destroyed itself. But one shot was enough. The lasers cut through Velen's shields like they were made of paper. 500 more ships died in seconds. Orem watched his fleet being torn apart. He could not understand it. This species was supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to surrender. Instead, they were fighting with weapons he had never seen before. Weapons that killed themselves to kill the enemy. Commander, his aide said nervously, I have been studying the enemy's history. You should see this. Not now. Sir, please. It is important. Orem turned to the screen his aide was showing him. It displayed images from Earth's past. Wars. So many wars. Humans killing each other with bombs, with gas, with nuclear weapons. He saw soldiers charging into certain death. He saw cities burning. He saw people strapping explosives to their own bodies. They have been fighting for their entire existence, the aide whispered. They do not just fight their enemies. They fight each other. Constantly. For thousands of years. Orem felt the cold feeling in his stomach grow stronger. What are you saying? I am saying we made a mistake, Commander. We thought we were invading farmers. People who would kneel when they saw our power. The aide's voice was shaking now. We were wrong. These are not farmers. These are warriors. War is all they know. Orem looked back at the battle. His fleet had lost over 1,000 ships now. They had not even reached the 4th planet yet. He had conquered 14 worlds. None of them had fought like this. None of them had hidden weapons in ice and rocks. None of them had used gravity as a weapon. None of them had machines that killed themselves just to hurt the enemy. For the first time in 30 years, High Commander Orim felt real fear, but he could not turn back. The Emperor would never allow it. The shame would be too great. "Continue forward," he ordered, his voice quieter now. "We will reach Earth. We will conquer them." He tried to sound confident. He failed. Far away, Admiral Tejo received the battle reports. Phase 1 and Phase 2 had worked better than expected. The enemy had lost nearly 1,500 ships before even reaching Mars, but Tejo did not celebrate. This was just the beginning. The real battle would come when the Velen reached Earth. When their soldiers landed on human soil, he looked at the photograph of his family one more time. "Just a little longer," he whispered. "Hold on just a little longer." The Velen fleet continued its advance. But they moved slower now, more carefully. They had learned that this small blue planet was not what it seemed. They had learned that humans were dangerous. They had not learned the most important lesson yet. They would learn it soon. The lesson was simple. Humans do not surrender. They do not give up. They fight until they win or until they die. And sometimes, even death does not stop them. The Velen fleet arrived at Earth with 7,800 ships. They had lost nearly 2,000 on the way. But they were still a massive force. Still enough to conquer 100 worlds? High Commander Orium looked at the blue planet through his window. Such a beautiful world. Blue oceans. Green land. White clouds. It looked peaceful. Innocent. He knew better now. "Begin the invasion," he ordered. "Send ground forces to their major cities. Take control of their governments. End this quickly." Thousands of landing craft descended from the Velen ships. They fell toward Earth like metal rain. Inside each craft were soldiers armed with the best weapons in the galaxy. They had conquered many worlds. They expected this world to be the same. They were wrong. The first landing craft touched down in Seoul, one of Earth's largest cities. The Velen soldiers marched out, expecting terrified civilians, expecting surrender. Instead, they found Private Yuri. She was 19 years old, small, thin, just a medic with a basic rifle. She had never killed anyone in her life. She was terrified, but she did not run. She stood in the street with 50 other soldiers, blocking the path of 500 Velen troops. The odds were impossible. Everyone knew they would die. They fought anyway. The battle lasted 2 hours. Yuri dragged wounded soldiers to safety, while bullets and laser beams flew around her. She watched her friends die. She watched the Velen advance step by step, paying with blood for every meter. When reinforcements finally arrived, only 12 human soldiers were still alive. But they had held the line. They had given the city time to prepare. Elder Seoyuk commanded the defense of the Asian theater. He was 73 years old, retired. He had thought his fighting days were over. He was wrong about that too, from his command center. He watched the battle for Seoul. He watched his soldiers die. He watched civilians pick up weapons and join the fight. Old men, young women, children throwing rocks at alien soldiers. "Sir," his aide said, "the Velen are requesting our surrender. They say they will spare the city if we stop fighting." Seo laughed. It was not a happy laugh. "Tell them this. We will burn Seoul to the ground before we let them have it." He was not lying. Across the world, the same story repeated. The Velen landed in New York. They found every building turned into a fortress. Snipers on every roof. Traps on every street. They landed in Moscow and discovered that the humans had planted bombs under their own roads. They landed in Tokyo and watched civilians charge their tanks with nothing but knives. In London, the Velen cornered a family in their apartment. A father, a mother, and 2 small children. The Velen soldier pointed his weapon at them. He expected them to beg, to kneel. Every other species did. The father picked up a kitchen knife. He was not a soldier. He had never fought in his life. He was an accountant. But he stood between the alien and his children, and he did not back down. The Velen soldier hesitated. This made no sense. The human had no chance. The knife was useless against Velen armor. Why was he not surrendering? The father attacked. He died, of course. But he wounded the soldier first. And he gave his family time to escape through the back window. That soldier reported to his commander later that day. His voice was shaking. They do not surrender, he said. Not even the civilians. They fight with kitchen tools. They fight with their bare hands. What kind of species is this? No one had an answer. High Commander O'Ream watched the ground reports with growing horror. His troops were taking cities, but the cost was enormous. 10 Velen soldiers died for every block captured. The humans destroyed their own buildings rather than let them be used by the enemy. They blew up their own bridges. They burned their own food supplies. This is madness, Orem whispered. They are destroying themselves. His aide stood beside him. Perhaps that is the point, Commander. They would rather have nothing than let us have everything. Rim shook his head. No species does this. No species chooses destruction over survival. Humans do. Meanwhile, in orbit, Admiral Tai-Ho waited. His 340 ships had not joined the battle yet. They had been hiding. In the atmosphere, in the oceans, buried under the surface of the moon, waiting for the perfect moment. That moment had arrived. The Velen fleet was spread out. Their ships were positioned to support ground operations. Their formations were loose. Their attention was focused on the planet below. They were not expecting an attack from above. All ships, Tai-Ho said calmly into his communicator. Execute Operation Hammer. 340 ships emerged from their hiding places at the same moment. They rose from the oceans. They dropped from the clouds. They launched from the moon. They attacked from every direction at once. Their target was not the entire fleet. That would be suicide. Their target was the command ships, the leaders. The brains of the Velen force, Captain Hannah, led the assault on O'Ream's flagship. Her destroyer, the Indomitable, screamed through space at maximum speed. Enemy ships tried to stop her. She dodged them, weaved between them, used their own formations against them. Captain, we are taking heavy damage, Kiwu shouted. Keep going, Hannah ordered. We only need to get close enough. The Indomitable was burning. Half its weapons were destroyed. A quarter of the crew was dead. But Hannah kept pushing forward. She reached the flagship. She launched everything she had. Missiles, torpedoes, energy beams. The flagship's shields flickered and failed. On the bridge of the flagship, Orium felt his ship shake. Alarms screamed. Fires broke out. His aide was dead. Half his officers were dead. A human ship had done this. One ship. Against his entire fleet? Commander, someone shouted, we need to retreat. The fleet is in chaos. O'Ream looked at the tactical display. It was a disaster. The humans had destroyed dozens of command ships in minutes. Velen formations were falling apart. Ground troops were losing communication with their commanders. He gave the order to retreat. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. On Earth, the people watched the Velen ships pull back. They saw the enemy leaving their cities. They saw the invaders running. In Seoul, Private Yuri sat in the ruins of a hospital, treating wounded soldiers. She was covered in blood. Most of it was not hers. She had not slept in 3 days. Someone shouted that the aliens were retreating. She looked up at the sky and saw the lights of the Velen ships rising into orbit. She was too tired to cheer, too tired to cry. She just kept working. There were more wounded to save. Elder Siok watched the enemy retreat from his command center. He had lost 30,000 soldiers in Seoul alone. The city was half destroyed. But they had won. Sir, his aide said, Admiral Tai-Ho wants to speak with you. Siok picked up the communicator. Admiral, well done. But this is not over. They are regrouping in orbit. We hurt them, but they are still strong. I know. Siok looked at the ruined city on his screens. What are your orders? Hold your position. Rebuild your defenses. We have one more surprise for them. Siok nodded slowly. He did not know what the Admiral was planning. But he trusted him. He looked at the photograph on his desk. His son, killed in the first hour of the invasion. "This is for you," he whispered. "For all of you?" The first day of the invasion was over. The Velen had expected to conquer Earth in 3 days. Instead, they had been pushed back, bloodied, humiliated, and the humans were just getting started. 2 weeks had passed since the invasion began. 2 weeks of blood, 2 weeks of fire, 2 weeks of hell. High Commander Orem stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship and stared at the numbers. He had started with 9,500 ships. He now had 3,400. 6,000 ships gone. Lost to drones, lost to hidden weapons, lost to a species that refused to die, and still Earth resisted. His ground troops had captured 3 cities, just 3, out of hundreds, and even those cities were not truly controlled. Every night, humans attacked his soldiers. They emerged from sewers, from ruins, from nowhere. They killed and disappeared. His troops were afraid to sleep. "Commander," his communications officer said, "we have lost contact with the Southern American Division. What happened?" "We do not know. The last transmission mentioned human soldiers. Thousands of them. Coming from the mountains?" Orem closed his 4 eyes. This was supposed to be easy. This was supposed to be routine. Instead, it had become a nightmare. The worst part was the fear. His soldiers were afraid. The mighty Velen army, conquerors of 14 worlds, was afraid of primitives with guns. He understood why. Humans did not fight like other species. Other species valued survival. They retreated when the battle was lost. They surrendered when there was no hope. They wanted to live. Humans did not seem to care about living. They cared about winning. And if they could not win, they cared about making the enemy pay. On the planet below, a Velen patrol entered a small village. They expected to find civilians, people to control. Resources to take? They found nothing. The village was empty. The buildings were silent. Then the explosions started. The humans had filled every building with bombs. They had turned the entire village into a trap. The patrol lost 50 soldiers in seconds. One human walked out of the flames, an old woman. She was holding a trigger in her hand. She was smiling. "Welcome to Earth," she said. Then she pressed the trigger one more time, back in orbit. Orem received news that made his blood freeze. Dr. Minji, the human scientist, had launched her final weapon. It was not a bomb. It was not a laser. It was something far more dangerous. It was the truth during the chaos of the invasion. Human hackers had entered the Velen communication network. They had been quiet, patient, gathering data, recording footage. And now they released everything. Across the Velen Empire, every screen lit up with the same images. The great Velen fleet being destroyed by tiny drones. Velen soldiers running from human civilians. Velen ships exploding one after another. The citizens of the Empire saw their invincible military bleeding against a single world. They saw humans charging into impossible battles. They saw humans laughing as they died. The Emperor's throne room received 1 million messages in 1 hour, all asking the same question: what is happening at Earth? The Emperor himself called Orome on a secure channel. His voice was cold. "You have brought shame to us, Commander. The entire Empire is watching you fail against primitives. Return immediately. Do not engage further." Aram bowed his head. "Yes, my Emperor." He gave the order to retreat. The remaining Velen ships began to pull back from Earth. The nightmare was almost over. But Admiral Taiho was not finished. From his command center, Taiho watched the enemy fleet begin its retreat. His aide, a young woman named Soyen, stood beside him.
Sirs.
"They are leaving. We won." Taiho shook his head. "No, not yet, sir. If we let them go, they will come back. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not next year. But eventually, they will rebuild their fleet. They will learn from their mistakes. And they will return." He pressed a button on his console. All remaining ships. Pursue the enemy. Do not let them escape.
Ow.
Soyen looked shocked. Sir, we only have 90 ships left. They still have thousands. I know. This is suicide. Taiho turned to face her. His eyes were hard. They came to our home. They killed our people. They burned our cities. If we let them run away now, what message does that send? That humans are kind? That humans forgive? He looked back at the screen. No, we are going to chase them. We are going to hurt them. And when the survivors reach their home, they will tell everyone what happened here. They will tell them that Earth is not a world to be conquered. Earth is a world to be feared. Captain Hannah received the order on her damaged ship. She had lost half her crew in the last 2 weeks. The Indomitable was barely holding together. She laughed when she read the message. Captain. Kiwoo asked nervously, Are you all right? The Admiral wants us to chase them, to hunt them down. She shook her head. He is crazy. Should we refuse? Hannah thought about it for a moment. Then she started entering commands into her console. No, he is right. If we let them run, they will think we are weak. They will come back. She looked at her crew. They were exhausted, wounded, terrified, but they were still here. Still fighting? Everyone listen to me. I know you are tired. I know you want to go home. But this is not over. Those aliens out there killed our friends, our families, our world, and now they are running away like cowards. She stood up from her chair. We are going to follow them. We are going to make them pay for every life they took. And when they get home, they will have nightmares about us for the rest of their lives. Are you with me? The crew answered with a roar. The chase began. 90 human ships pursued 3,000 Velen ships. It should have been a slaughter. The humans should have been destroyed in minutes. But the Velen fleet was broken. Their morale was shattered. Their formations were chaos. And the humans were angry. Hannah's squadron hit them again and again. They attacked from behind. They attacked from the sides. They attacked from above and below. They never stopped. They never rested. Every time a Velen captain thought they were safe, the humans appeared again. Orim tried to organize a counterattack, but his captains refused. They did not want to fight anymore. They just wanted to escape. Some ships broke formation and fled at maximum speed. Others surrendered to the humans. A few captains destroyed their own ships rather than face another battle. Orim contacted Admiral Taiho directly. His voice was tired, defeated. We are retreating. We accept defeat. Please allow us safe passage. There has been enough death. Taiho's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than before. There were dark circles under his eyes, but his voice was steady. Your empire has conquered 200 worlds, Commander. How many of those worlds asked for mercy? Orium had no answer. How many begged you to stop? How many surrendered and were enslaved anyway? Still no answer. We are not conquering you, Commander. We are teaching you. When you get home, tell them what happened here. Tell them what it costs to come to Earth. The transmission ended. Orim sat in his chair for a long time. Around him, his fleet fell apart. Ships fled in every direction. Some were destroyed by humans. Others were destroyed by accidents. Others simply vanished into space, their crews refusing to go home. He thought about the 14 worlds he had conquered. He remembered how icily they had surrendered, how quickly they had accepted defeat. He understood now why humans were different. Those other worlds had wanted to live. They had been willing to give up everything to survive. Humans were not like that. Humans would rather die than submit. And if they were going to die, they would make sure to take their enemies with them. It was terrifying. It was insane. It was magnificent. Orim gave one final order to his fleet. All ships. Maximum speed. Do not stop for anything. We are going home. Behind them, the human ships continued their pursuit. They chased the Velen for 3 more days. They destroyed hundreds more ships. They only stopped when there was nothing left to chase. 3 months after the invasion began, High Commander Orim stood before the Velen Council. The great hall was silent. Thousands of officials watched him with a mixture of horror and disbelief. Behind him stood 16 other survivors. 17 ships. That was all that remained of the greatest fleet the Empire had ever sent. 17 out of 9,500. The Emperor spoke first. His voice echoed through the hall. Explain yourself, Commander. How did you lose 9,483 ships to a single primitive world? Orim took a deep breath. He had thought about this moment for 3 months. He had prepared speeches. He had practiced excuses. But now, standing here, he found that he had only one thing to say. We did not lose those ships to the humans, my Emperor. We lost them to ourselves. The hall erupted in confused murmurs. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. Explain. Many ships were destroyed in battle, but many more were lost because our crews refused to fight. They mutinied. They surrendered. They scuttled their own vessels. They fled into deep space and never came back. Orim's voice was steady, but his 4 eyes were filled with something the Council had never seen in him before. Fear. Our soldiers were not defeated by weapons. They were defeated by terror. The humans showed them things they could not comprehend. Civilians attacking tanks with stones. Soldiers laughing as they died. Parents sacrificing themselves for children they would never see again. He stepped forward. I have conquered 14 worlds for this empire. I have faced every kind of enemy. But I have never faced anything like humans. They do not think like us. They do not fight like us. They do not value their lives the way we do. The Emperor leaned forward. What are you saying, Commander? I am saying that Earth is not to be touched. Not now, not ever. They are insane. They fight without hope of victory. They destroy themselves rather than submit. And worst of all, he paused. They remember. They remember every wound, every insult, every death, and they will never, ever forgive. He looked around the silent hall. If we attack them again, they will not just defend themselves. They will come for us. They will cross the galaxy. They will find our worlds. And they will do to us what we tried to do to them. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, what do you recommend? Leave them alone. Leave their entire region of space alone. Put their system on every map as forbidden territory, and pray that they forget about us. 180 million humans had died in the invasion. Cities lay in ruins. Entire countries were scarred by war. The cost of victory was almost too high to measure, but humanity had survived. And more than that, humanity had won. Captain Hannah visited Admiral Taiho 1 week after the last Velen ship left the solar system. He was in a hospital bed, dying from injuries he had suffered in the final battle. She sat beside him and took his hand. You did it, sir. You saved us all. Taiho smiled weakly. We did it, all of us. Every soldier, every civilian, every person who refused to give up, what happens now? Now we rebuild. We grow stronger. We expand into space. He coughed, and blood appeared on his lips. But that is not my concern anymore. That is for the next generation. Hannah felt tears in her eyes. Sir, listen to me, Captain. I am going to die. That is fine. I have made peace with it. But before I go, I need you to understand something. She nodded. They will tell stories about us now. Across the galaxy, every species that hears what happened here will remember. They will remember that there is a small blue planet in a forgotten corner of space. They will remember that the people on that planet do not surrender. They will remember that humans are not to be challenged. He squeezed her hand. That is our legacy. That is what we bought with all those lives. Not just survival. We bought fear. The entire galaxy will fear us now, and that fear will protect us for generations. He closed his eyes. Promise me you will remember them. All of them. Everyone who died. I promise, Hannah whispered. Admiral Taiho died that night. He was buried with full military honors. His name was carved into a memorial that stretched for kilometers, listing every person who had given their life in the war. The Velen Empire did not recover from the invasion. Within a decade, it collapsed. The species they had conquered saw what happened at Earth. They saw that the Empire could be defeated. They saw that resistance was possible. One by one, those worlds rose up. They fought back. They remembered what the humans had shown them. Freedom was worth dying for. 50 years after the invasion, 12 human colonies existed across nearby star systems. The population had grown. The cities had been rebuilt, taller and stronger than before. Humanity was no longer a small species hiding on one planet. They were a force in the galaxy. Private Yuri, now a grandmother, returned to Seoul on the anniversary of the invasion. The city was beautiful again. The scars of war had healed, but the memories remained. She walked to the memorial wall. The names of the fallen stretched farther than she could see. She found her friends there. The soldiers she had served with, the ones who had died so she could live. She touched their names with old, wrinkled fingers. A child tugged at her sleeve. Her great-granddaughter, "Grandma, what is this place?" Yuri looked down at the little girl. "This is where we remember. Remember the people who saved us? Did we really beat them? The aliens?" Yuri nodded. "We did how?" "Everyone says they had so many ships. We had so few." Yuri knelt down to look the child in the eyes. "Because they wanted to conquer us. But we wanted to survive. They were fighting for land. We were fighting for our families. For our homes. For everything we loved." She pointed at the names on the wall. "These people knew they would die. They fought anyway. Because they believed in something more important than their own lives. They believed in us. In the future, in you." The child looked at the wall with new understanding. "Are the aliens scared of us now?" Yuri smiled. "Yes, they are very scared." Far away in a distant part of the galaxy, a Velen trading vessel moved through space. It was carrying goods between colonies. A routine journey. The captain saw something on his scanner. A human ship. A cruiser bearing the flag of Earth. The cruiser was not threatening them. It was not even heading toward them. It was simply passing through. The Velen captain immediately changed course. He added 3 extra days to his journey, just to make sure he stayed far away from the human vessel. His first officer was confused. "Captain, they are not hostile. Why are we avoiding them?" The captain turned to look at the young officer. "You were not born yet when the invasion happened. You did not see what they did to our fleet." "I have read the reports. Reports do not tell the whole story." Captain shook his head. "My father was on one of those ships. He never came back. Neither did 9,000 of his friends. Those humans. They are not like us. They are not like anyone." He pointed at the distant human ship on the screen. "That flag they carry? It is soaked in blood. Ours and theirs. And they wear it proudly. They want everyone to remember what they did." The first officer was silent. "Never go near Earth," the captain said. "Never challenge a human. Never give them a reason to remember you. Because they never forget. And they never forgive." The Velen ship continued on its new course, staying as far from the human cruiser as possible. On that cruiser, a young human officer noticed the Velen ship changing direction. He smiled and returned to his duties. The galaxy remembered, and humans were never invaded again.